It's game day. Welcome to the Saturday Conversation. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Rod Babers and Gerry Hamilton, brought to you by our friends over at Tito's. Guys, we are going to break down the Longhorns football game today. We are also, guys, going to be talking about the Longhorns game as well as the SEC games. Give everybody a little preview. Let's go out of the gate here with the latest news on the Longhorns. Offensive lineman Trevor Goosby is expected to be a game day decision. Gerry Hamilton, young man out of Melissa, Texas, was scheduled to be the starter, the heir apparent to Kelvin Banks in this game, but had a hand injury last week. What is the very latest on young man Trevor Goosby?
Yeah, I think it's really going to come down to a pain tolerance and effectiveness combination. I don't think it's just pain tolerance. I think it's effectiveness because when you hurt those outside fingers on your left hand, Rod, and depending on what you have to wear around that hand is gonna determine your effectiveness. Yes, there's going to be pain with that, but it's really going to be more than the pain. It's going to be how effective are you going to be against the Kenyatta Jackson of the world if you don't have strength in your hand. And that's really what I'm looking for with Trevor Goosby when this ultimate decision's made is, again, I don't think it's about the pain, Rod. I think it's about the effectiveness because there's going to be pain with this injury.
No doubt about it. And I mean, on the other side, if you're Ohio State, even if he does play, to your point, he'll be dealing with an injury. So they will test that injury. And if it's somebody, obviously, he ends up not playing, then whoever is playing in his place, they'll also be tested because they'll know that is a backup. So either way, you're going to have a contingency plan for that left tackle position. So maybe more 12 personnel. Try to insulate you and pass protection a little bit. Maybe emphasis on your best pass protection running backs, your running backs who are better in pass protection, maybe get more reps and more snaps. Maybe when you do have your tight end in there, whoever, jack injuries, whoever it may be, that obviously a lot of attention paid to that left side. So there are things schematically that you can do. I imagine when they go deep now, and this is also something Sark does anyway, especially early on in some of these big games, max protection. Just to make sure that you got, you're taking care of Arch and making sure that his backside is well taken care of. So there are things you can do schematically, but no doubt about it, this is a concern going into a big matchup like this.
No free shots on Arch Manning. I don't think anybody wants to see that in game one of his debut. It's really, we are entering the Arch Manning era of Texas football today. Going to be quite interesting. Also, Julian Sayin. You could also say that, well, Buckeyes are entering into the Julian Sayin era of the Buckeyes. Before we give our final score predictions, I want to ask y'all this. What do y'all think of the QB1 versus QB1 matchup today?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah, look, it's a tough one. I think I'll start with Julian Sayin. I really believe that Ryan Day said, with no coach speak, got to run the football, stop the run. But the run the football part is part of protecting Julian Sayin. I don't think either coach wants their guy throwing it 35 to 40 times in this game. That's a tough environment for Arch to do so. That means you're probably playing from behind and things aren't going well running the football. Vice versa, same thing for Ohio State. And I don't think Ryan Day wants Julian Sayin throwing it 35, 40 times and giving the Texas pass rush that many chances to tee off on his quarterback. So I think the key very much for Ohio State is to run the ball effectively enough to where Julian Sayin has protection around him with a running game. Not offensive line protection, but protection around him with a running game. Because if they have to depend on his right arm that much in this game, I don't think things have gone according to plan. Arch Manning, I think it's similar, although I do think Sark's going to, as Rod's illustrated many times throughout the week, Sark's going to take more shots, I think, than Ohio State is. Now, the shots could come for Ohio State if Jeremiah Smith gets behind somebody, there's a busted coverage. But I think design shots are going to be more on the Texas side in this game. But the only way that happens is if the offensive line holds up in pass pro. If they're struggling in pass pro, that's going to change Sark's play calls. But who wins this battle, I'm going with experience. I'm going with Arch Manning, and I'm also going to go with the mobility of Arch Manning a little more. And I think Salen's got pocket mobility, but at 6'1", 208, 6'2", 208, they don't want him tucking and running the ball. This isn't Will Howard time at Ohio State. I go with Arch Manning being the difference in this game with the mobility. And it's not just runs and it's rushing yards. It's how Sark can call the game and how he's going to play outside the pocket and in the waggles.
Robbie, Sayen or Manning in this one?
Manning, to me, I think it's and I love what Gerry said too. I'll just add that I think the continuity of the coaching staff for Texas, they've been together so long. Arch has been now immersed in this system for 2 years already before he became a full-time starter. So Sark is familiar with him. He's familiar with Sark. So Sark knows what he likes. You know, he knows what's expected of him by Sark. I think now he knows kind of the intricacies of this offense. I think that's going to give Texas a little bit of an advantage in the quarterback battle because they can go deeper in the bag. They can go deeper into the playbook. I think he is at this because he's been in the system. I think he is more equipped to deal with a crisis if he encounter. Well, actually, he will encounter it. Right? Yeah. He'll be more equipped to deal with it, and that scrambling ability that Gerry talks about, his mobility, I think will be weaponized to a certain extent with some bootlegs and some waggles for Arch Manning, giving him the option to run the throw. So that's why, and I think on the defensive side, going against Julian saying, also the Texas defense can get deeper. They can get more complex. They can get more exotic than a Matt Patricia because he just got there with this defense because he's a new play caller and he's trying to hybridize his beliefs and his core principles with what they did last year. So I think there's a limit on what Julian's saying can basically how deep he can get into that playbook with Ohio State. I think there's a limit to how deep and complex and exotic the Ohio State defense can get in this game. But for Texas, I think, they actually are a veteran group on defense, right? You got all-star players at every level of that defense. If they want to get exotic, play some mind games, if they want to have, really kind of over-exaggerated disguise pre-snap, they can do that. I think Ohio State, yes, they have some of those guys have that ability, but the system, they have not been immersed in it, and they are not as acquainted with that system as whatever it is as the Texas guys are. So I think that's going to help both sides. Arch, it's going to help the Texas defense. So I'll take Arch in this matchup.
All right, that leads me into the score prediction. Guys, I've got to tell you, I picked the Buckeyes in this one, 28-24. I'm also one of the only guys that went with the over in this game, 47.5 according to Vegas. And I went with the over, 28-24 Buckeyes. I am notoriously, I wouldn't say pessimistic, but cautious about the Longhorns. If the Longhorns somehow win this game, I will never doubt Steve Sarkisian in an early season matchup ever again. That's for sure. But I've got the Buckeyes winning this 28-24. Rod, what do you got?
I believe I'm at 27-23. I think I've kind of bounced around that number a little bit this week. So I think I've got the Longhorns winning. I think they win in a fourth quarter game. We get to see the clutch gene from Arch a little bit because he's got to go down and put up a game-winning score in this matchup. And I think the defense holds off that Ohio State offense just enough. So I got it as a tight game, and I guess I got the over too then.
Yes, yeah. Hey, we are only literally 3 hours away from kick here. Gerry, what do you got?
I have 24-20 Texas, and I was just going back 24-21, 24-20 all week. And I think it's going to take 3 touchdowns to win this game for the team that wins it. And I'm not counting like for the over. I'm going with the under because I'm not counting like a critical error play that leads to 6 touchdowns, a block punt, something in the return game, a pick 6, right? I'm going with more traditional, not that there's not going to be turnovers in an early game, but I'm going with traditional, okay, this is how the points are going to be scored in this game. I just don't see, unless there's critical error touchdowns, I don't see either one of these teams just mounting multiple scoring drives against either defense. So I'm going 24-20, and I don't think there's going to be that pick 6 in this game or that critical error. If there is, it's definitely going to the over. I think that's how it gets to the over.
So it is 2-1. And by the way, it is my birthday today. So please,
Yeah, happy birthday, Bob.
Grant me this wish and give me a Longhorn victory today. All right. Before we go on and talk about the SEC matchups, big one, LSU Clemson to talk about. I want to say thank you to our sponsor of the Saturday conversation going into game day here. That is Tito's Handmade Vodka, Austin's own. It is not a tailgate with our friends at Tito's. Look at Gerry Hamilton. He's already ready. It's a little early for you, Gerry. A little early. Hey, it's not too early for our friend Brian Kelly over at LSU. He lost 5 consecutive openers at LSU. The night game tonight on ABC at 6:30 will be LSU going to Clemson. Clemson is favored in this game. They're the number 4 ranked team in the country. LSU number 9. This could be 5 consecutive years of first game losses for Brian Kelly. Does he get over the hump here, or what are you guys thinking about this game? Austin Westlake's played Cade Klubnik, obviously leading the Dabo Swinney's guys for the Clemson Tigers. But this is in Death Valley, the Clemson version of it. What do you think, Rod? I'll let you start.
Yeah, right. It's the battle of Death Valley. Who gets to claim the real Death Valley? I don't like the matchup for LSU. They're replacing 4 of the 5 starters on the offensive line, going up against 2 of the best defensive linemen in college football, and TJ Parker and Peter Woods. Those guys are beasts. And I also don't like the matchup for them on the back end. LSU's bringing in a lot of transfers in the secondary. So kind of weird to think of LSU doing that. But they brought in a few guys via the transfer portal in their secondary, expecting to contribute, for guys from VTech, guys from North Carolina State, U of H. Going up against that Clemson wide receiving core, all 3 of those guys are NFL caliber wide receivers. You're talking about TJ Moore, Antonio Williams, Brian Westcott Jr., and Cade Klubnik is a dude. Texas had one of the best, if not the best, pass defense in the country last year. And when Cade Klubnik got hot, not even that Texas defense really could stop him. I'll take Clemson in this matchup. I just don't like for LSU. I don't like their O-line versus that Clemson defensive front, and I don't like those wide receivers against that LSU set pass defense. So I'll take Clemson.
Yeah, I'm going Clemson, home game 1, and I agree. I think with what Rod said, LSU is going to be improved in their pass rush and in their defensive edge position, but in their back end, DJ Pickett's going to be a star. He's a true freshman. But I like Clemson's matchup against LSU down the field in this game, and I also like it because it's a home game. And that's crazy for me to pick Clemson over LSU outside of it just being a home game for Clemson, because the last time we saw Clemson was against Texas, and they were awful on defense. They would have given up 450 yards rushing if Cam Williams didn't go down in that game. Yeah. So I'm saying Tom Allen's going to be a bit of a miracle worker because LSU does have offensive talent at running back, wide receiver, and quarterback.
Yeah, I'll say this. 2 early season Heisman frontrunners, correct? And Garrett Nussmeier at LSU, Cade Klubnik at Clemson. Also, LSU's 1 year ahead on a new defensive installation with Blake Baker than Tom Allen at Clemson. Could that play a role? Could the night crowd at Clemson be a big thing? I'm going to go Clemson here as well. All right, the other big game that's kind of a non-conference matchup in the SEC, outside obviously of Texas, Ohio State, and LSU Clemson, is Alabama, Florida State. Florida State coming off just a terrible season a year ago, an absolute implosion. Alabama trying to get started with a new starter at quarterback, Ty Simpson. This game is in Tallahassee as well. It's the 2:30 kickoff on ABC. Guys, what do y'all think of this one?
I like Alabama. That line's 14.5. I like Alabama to cover. I like the over. It's 49.5. I just think this is Alabama's got bigger, badder dudes in this game. And I know Florida State's it's kind of a bounce back opportunity for them. And I know Alabama doesn't have Jam Miller or Keenan on the defensive line who had tightrope surgery. But I just think Alabama's offensive line is going to own this game. I think Ty Simpson is a better fit for the Alabama offense than Milroe was in Ryan Williams in year 2. Jeremy Bernard in year 4 in this system. Who am I to bet against them? I think they're gonna score a lot of points in Tallahassee.
Rod B.
In addition to what Gerry said, I'm also taking Bama. Like that Ryan Grubb now is back together with Kalen DeBoer calling those plays. So I think that also is another advantage for them. If there is hope for Florida State, it's that Alabama has struggled with quarterbacks that can move. Remember last year, they allowed at least 50 yards rushing to quarterbacks in 5 games. And I believe they end up losing 3 of those games. So I think, ultimately Castellanos, I believe that's his name.
He has to go Diego Pavi in this game. Right?
Boom, exactly. If he just goes off, he just goes nuclear, and he's just running around making plays, improvising, it's possible. He has the 8th most rushing yards for a quarterback in college football in the last 2 years, excluding sacks, 7th in explosive runs, 11th in missed tackles for. So he's got to go off in order for them to keep it close and for them to have a chance to upset, but I don't see it happening. I'll take Bama.
I don't see it happening either. And I've got to tell you, if it's a blowout like Jerry's predicting with an over and a cover by Alabama, Mike Norvell's leash in Tallahassee may revert to what it was prior to that big season he had 2 years ago.
Yeah.
This is one of those do or die games for them. And they at least with Thomas Castellanos, the quarterback coming in from BC, need to try to keep it close going into the second half. If they don't do that, I think the natives may be restless in Tallahassee. All right, a couple of other SEC games, guys, to think about. One of them, obviously, is Texas A&M playing and hosting Jeff Traylor's squad at UTSA. Traylor, of course, an East Texas native. What do y'all think of this matchup? Is this going to be time for A&M, to name their score?
Well, first of all, there's $57 tickets available for the A&M opener, so Aggie fans aren't too excited about this one. That's about as low as you'll find for a ranked team. The line's 22.5, and I actually like A&M to cover because this is not the same UTSA. These jobs are very difficult now. They don't have the same talent level. I think Jeff Taylor's a tremendous coach, known him a long time, but these jobs are no man's land for me. You're not going to have the talent you did. The portal just continues to take your best players away. Then you have to take guys, maybe take some risks on character to get talent back into your program. I certainly like A&M to win this game, and I like it by about 24 points.
Yep.
Rodney?
I like Jeff Traylor too, good coach, but I like A&M more. What month is it? It's August, right?
Oh,
So
it's
August 30th, it's my birthday.
yeah, you're right. The Aggies gonna be rolling, baby. It ain't November yet, so the Aggies got this. They got it. Yeah.
I love it, Rod. Hey, other games of note: Oklahoma hosts Illinois State. Not a lot of people will see this because it is on ESPN Plus, so you're gonna have to buy that one. Florida hosts Long Island University. Vanderbilt hosts Charleston Southern. That's another night game. In the mid-afternoon game, Georgia hosts Marshall. Kentucky hosts Toledo. Mississippi State goes – this is interesting. Mississippi State goes to Southern Miss.
Yeah.
That's an intriguing one.
Yep.
Perhaps another big one that we didn't mention, and it comes on the same time as later today as Texas and Ohio State, is Syracuse, Tennessee. Yeah. That one's going to be held in Atlanta, kind of neutral site game, although you would think the Volunteers would be heavy there. Y'all have a pick on Tennessee, Syracuse before we move on?
I'm going to take Tennessee. Both teams lost a lot. I think both teams lost their starting quarterback. Both teams lost their top 3 receivers, their leading rusher. Tennessee lost like 4 offensive linemen. And Syracuse has to replace, I want to say, 3 of their 5 offensive linemen with transfers. But it's easier for a Tennessee to reload than it is a Syracuse these days. And I do like Tennessee's secondary. McCoy's going to be out. He had an ACL injury, one of their better corners. They returned 3 starters in the secondary. So I like Tennessee just because I think they're going to be able to replace parts easier than a Syracuse.
Yeah, and Syracuse also lost their freshman All-American defensive tackle. And they needed him in this game.
Where's he at now? Where's Ron Watson?
The Longhorns. He's in Columbus. You can't lose your freshman All-American D tackle and take on an SEC team that likes to run the football. So I like Tennessee to cover. the 13.5, I think it is in this game, despite not really knowing what this Tennessee offense is truly going to look like this year. I think offensive line-wise, they're going to be too strong in this game.
I'll just say Fran Brown, though, love him as a coach for Syracuse.
I do too.
And I'm rooting for Jonte Cook as well.
That's one thing I did not think I'd see again is Jonte Cook starting a Power 4 game.
There you go.
Yeah, good for Jonte. He's back on the right track, we believe, up at Syracuse. Wish him nothing but the best as well. Other game that we have in the SEC, we won't talk much about it because it actually doesn't happen until tomorrow, and that is South Carolina and Virginia Tech. South Carolina and Virginia. That also, guys, will be a game in Atlanta. All right, other games this weekend that I want to just on the national perspective get your takes on. Obviously, Notre Dame, Miami is the third top 10 game. Both teams in the top 10 alongside Texas, Ohio State, LSU, and Clemson. Notre Dame, Miami in Hard Rock Stadium down in Miami. What do y'all think of that one?
I'm gonna take Notre Dame.
Yeah, me too.
Notre Dame. Notre Dame's defense is gonna be tough. I think they got the best cover corner actually in college football in Leonard Moore from the Austin area, and they got the best running back arguably in college football too. He's a stud. That kid Love.
Yeah. I like Notre Dame too. I think they're going to physically win this football game, and I think it's going to be very interesting, Miami, because then Florida comes to town in a few weeks. Mario Cristobal needs to win one of those two games to keep his fan base on his side. Not that he's going to get fired, but that they actually think that this guy can get over the hump at Miami. And I know they love him. He played there, but he can't lose to Notre Dame and Florida at home in the first 4 weeks this year. But I think he's going to lose to Notre Dame.
Look, Mario Cristobal is a close but no cigar right now at them. And I will add this. What does Carson Beck, Georgia transfer quarterback, look like for the Hurricanes? Is he as good as some people thought he would be last year? And Georgia just didn't have the weapons overall because Georgia was lacking at wide receiver a year ago with new guys and new faces around him. And in the ACC should have a better offensive line compared to the defensive fronts he will see, not necessarily today, but in the future in the ACC. I think we'll see.
Bobby, to your point, Cam Ward just didn't make off-schedule plays for them last year. He made off-schedule touchdowns last year. They scored touchdowns on scramble plays with his talent. They're not going to have that this year. So Miami's going to have to execute at a higher level.
Big believer as well, I am, of Notre Dame's Marcus Freeman, that group, and the talent he is assembling. I think you saw it in the national championship game and even in the semifinal against Penn State a year ago. All right, let's finish this up here real quick. I want to ask you one more question about the Longhorn game before we let folks go and get to their tailgates this morning, whether you're doing it in front of your TV or at the game of your choice. MVP for the game for the Longhorns today. You thinking, is it got to be Arch Manning if Texas is going to win? Is it a Colin Simmons with a strip sack to kind of repay Ohio State and Jack Sawyer from the semifinals a year ago? What are you guys envisioning as the MVP of this game for the Longhorns?
That is good. I feel like it's got to be Arch. It's weird to say. Because I'm thinking about those other big, blockbuster non-conference early season matchups for Texas, the both Bama games and the Michigan game. And I just remember Quinn. Like, one of the things that just stood out to me was just how good he looked in that first Bama game, and then that Bama game on the road, and then the Michigan game. Like, we kept wanting more of that Quinn. We're like, where's that Quinn? I want that Quinn. After those games, he's like, oh, Quinn's a Heisman favorite. All right, looks like he may be a first-round pick. And I was like, what the? And then we see the rest of the way, obviously, things worked out. I figure in those big games on those big stages like that, all the talk leading up to it, it's going to have to be Arch. That's why I feel like Sark is going to unleash Arch on Ohio State because it's got to be him. It's got to be.
Gerry?
Yeah, look, Arch has to win the quarterback battle. Texas has to win the physicality battle. I'm going with Mason Shipley, the game-winning field goal.
Woo! Ooh, there we go.
From the right hash in Columbus.
From the right hash. There you go.
I like that.
One more thank you to our sponsor of the Saturday Conversation. That is our friends over at Tito's. Again, it's not a tailgate without Tito's. This is our schedule for today, if you don't mind. Of course, we just finished the Saturday Conversation here. We have the pregame tailgate with our friends over at South Point Dodge. They got the Dodge Ram ready for you. And then watch with us with Vaughn Lane. Get to your spot this summer and late summer with Vaughn Lane into next year. And then the post-game show, running it back again with our friends at Flight, myself, Brian Robeson, as well as Rod B. We'll have you guys covered. That'll do it for this morning's Saturday Conversation. Time to get over there to the tailgate for me. Guys, y'all have a good one. Hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em.